Welcome to ESSC 12007 Advanced Sport Psychology presentation. This intervention is aimed to increase the amount of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity in the target population. So, who is the target population? 12-year-old to 17-year-old adolescents whom are currently attending Australian secondary schools in Victoria were chosen for this intervention. Either gender is able to volunteer for this intervention regardless of physical fitness or background. This age group is recommended to engage in at least 60 minutes of physical activity with a moderate to vigorous intensity each day for every day of the week. However, in data collected regarding this in 2009 to 2012, only 15% of adolescents performed the recommended amount, with sport and free play providing most of the activity recorded. In Victoria, 1/3 of children aged 5 to 17 have over the recommended screen time, which is being shown to negatively influence the amount of physical activity they receive during the week. Physical activity was further prevented by crime rates in areas and also areas which lacked quality sporting complexes, which increased screen time further. A lack of limitations on screen time and the parents' habits, such as watching TV as a family, also increased screen time. There are many beneficial reasons why it is recommended to engage in 60 minutes of physical activity, especially for growing youth. Some of those issues physical activity lowers the risk for are cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, several cancers, depression, and even reduced risk of dying early compared to those less active. Additional benefits include increases in aerobic fitness, muscle and bone health, improved sleep, and also it assists with weight control and the prevention of obesity. So what is involved in this intervention? The intervention will last 8 weeks and is focused on increasing moderate to vigorous physical activity. The sessions are after school on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays and last for an hour. For this, we require 30 volunteers for this program for each group, totaling 60 students, although 30 will actually be performing the after-school sessions and can be of any grade or gender. Before we get into the fun stuff, what are we measuring and how are we going to do that? We measure the month's previous average weekly physical activity in both intervention and control groups. This includes the intensity of the activity, the average time of day this is performed, and the top 3 activities performed. How is that measured? Well, questionnaires are completed prior to the intervention start date, at midpoint of the intervention, and at completion of the intervention for both groups. A tally sheet prior to each session gauges the attendance and consistency over the intervention. Students are also instructed on how to measure their own pulse to ensure the intensity is correct for each student during activities. Here is an example of the physical activity questionnaire, the one which will be given to both groups. It uses a scaling system so it is easy to compare to both groups, as well as if the activity potentially is from sport or free play or alternative activities. There is a list of examples under the actual questionnaire to help those not sure of actual intensity during their physical activity in the past. This is the intervention questionnaire and is only filled by the group that is doing the after-school activities. This is to determine if the instructor is likable, the session's fun levels or the activities were fun enough, or if it's lacking enjoyment. Tally sheets are simple number taking on the day, as grade and gender are not being determining factors. It is focused on increasing the age groups 12 to 17 physical activity participations. This assists with knowing consecutive numbers and if students are dropping out or just missing the odd session. We use self-measuring pulse because it is a low-cost and a relatively accurate form of measuring heart rate to gauge intensity based on max heart rate formula. When taking heart rate, it takes 6 seconds counted down by the instructor to ensure everyone is ready to start counting. Next, count the pulses for 6 seconds and times that amount by 10, you have your heart rate for that minute. Minus your current age from 220. For example, if you're 15 years old, your answer is 205. Then use the given percentages 55 and 85 as per the questionnaire states. They are the minimal and maximal of moderate and vigorous intensity. to find your minimum and maximum heart rate range. For this example, it is 112 to 174 beats per minute. If I say a safe number of 140, this is well within both ranges. You divide that by 10, which equals 14 beats for the 6 seconds. That's my target beats when I'm measuring my heart rate for the 6 seconds. If the activity I performed did not reach that, in the next activity I need to work a little harder and then reassess after, increasing or decreasing my effort as required. After the first session, this will be easy to perform, and we will do this in a practice session prior to the intervention sessions, which goes over the different games we play and measuring your heartbeat, as well as a trial of the games to familiarize yourself. So, here's the fun stuff. What do you do during a session? Well, we start off after a tally sheet with a warm-up of 3 to 5 minutes. This consists of low-intensity jogging, a marker game where markers are thrown and some people are to pick them up while others are trying to keep them away from the people picking them up, jump and jack movements, and ball passing and kicking practice. Unfortunately, for time's sake, I cannot go into full detail on the activities, although some of them will feel familiar, such as soccer, basketball, and dodgeball, which use similar movements such as throwing, kicking, and passing like the sports, but are modified slightly. The hardest but also one of the top games involves 3 movements in one. This is the superhero. First, a crawling movement similar to Spider-Man, and involves alternating movements of knee to elbow and stretching out the opposite arm in front to move along the ground like Spider-Man does along walls. Second is the zigzag run. There are plastic standing poles which you run between, and you'll feel like the Flash doing so. Lastly is the stress relief task of throwing medicine balls away from you like the Hulk hurls tanks away. Hulk smash the ball if you like. The participants finish the session with a warm down of 3 to 5 minutes, involving light jogging and high and low fives, and participants are encouraged to try and trick each other with low fives and swap them with a high fives or vice versa. Also, slow, short-time static stretches involving the back, hamstrings, and arms are included. We measure the effectiveness by comparing the amount of physical activity for prior, during, and post-intervention between the groups, as well as comparing the intervention group's physical activity within itself using the start, mid, and end point. Here's a list of references I used. I look forward to working with those who volunteer for this intervention. Thank you.